promise you we will govern on behalf of all Americans.
Vice President Kamala Harris has selected Tim Walz as her running mate.
This thing that it's so close, let's just win big, people. Let's just win big.
There's a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of energy with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz at the top of the ticket.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Washington Post Live. I'm Jonathan Capehart, Associate Editor, The Washington Post, coming to you from the United Center, site of the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Perhaps no one is more associated with President Biden's win in 2020 than South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn. It was his endorsement in the final days leading up to the South Carolina primary that catapulted Joe Biden from former vice president to the Oval Office. And it was Clyburn who stood by his longtime friend as he made the difficult decision to withdraw from re-election and throw his support to his vice president, Kamala Harris. Joining me now is the great man from the Palmetto State, Congressman James Clyburn. Congressman Clyburn, welcome back to Washington Post Live.
Well, thank you very much for having me back.
All right. So exactly 1 month ago today, August 21st, President Biden announced that he would not seek election to a second term. Take us inside your emotions watching your friend of, I guess, nearly 5 decades make this monumental decision.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. That was I jokingly say, the 45th anniversary of my 39th birthday. That was my 84th birthday. And I was on my way to have a Sunday brunch with two of my daughters, extended family and friends. And I got the call that he was about to make his announcement. Now, Jonathan, you know, I've been around this a long time. I had just spent 2 days with the president out in Las Vegas at the NAACP convention and National Bar Association and several other meetings. And I detected, I sensed that he was making some decisions. And my gut just told me that he was going to withdraw from the race. So when he shared his statement with me, I told him that I understood it and I agreed with it. But then I mentioned that there was something missing from the statement. And I shared with him that I thought that he ought not lead the stage without endorsing as his successor his vice president. And I told him why I felt that. And then he said to me,
okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry, Congress. Finish that thought.
And then he said that he would issue a second statement within the hour. And according to the records I've seen, he did issue that second statement within 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And so, Congressman, why was it important to you and to the Democratic Party that President Biden immediately throw his support behind Vice President Harris?
Well, there were two things going on in my mind. The first one was I had come to the conclusion some time ago. I've seen a report that I said something to this effect on July 2nd, about 3 weeks before this little session with the president. And that was, I was sticking with Joe. I think my thing was I'm riding with Biden unless he he changes his mind. And then I would be all in with Kamala Harris. Now, I felt that way because right after that incident down in Tennessee, when we saw what MAGA Republicans were doing to two young African-American representatives and one white representative, white female representative, Kamala Harris almost immediately jumped on a plane and went down to Tennessee. And when I sat listening to her speech when she got there, around the middle of that speech, I said to myself, she has arrived. She is ready to lead. The growing time, what we call getting acclimated to the job, growing pains, she had successfully weathered all of that. And then she followed that, if you recall, with going out on the hustings in response to the Dobbs decision, which had overturned Roe v. Wade. And I saw how she conducted herself with that. And on the international stage, when we ran into that little problem with France over that, I think the deal with Australia involving the submarines, France was very, very upset. It was tough. Joe Biden sent her to France to deal with that. And she did so very successfully. So it was clear to me that she was ready for leadership. And then we talk about African American women, this and African women, that. And then here's an African American woman that I thought if he should leave the stage, this was a great time to demonstrate our commitment to the leadership of women. And I thought she would be a good candidate. Now, the second thing is this. I watched on television what happened in 1968 right here in Chicago. I was at the 1972 convention in Miami, and the debacle we had there led us to a loss. We only carried one state in the District of Columbia. And then in 1980, the challenge to a sitting president, our incumbent, Jimmy Carter. I saw what that did, and we lost the election. I just felt that it would be catastrophic for us to jettison her, work around her, and not go all in support of her. And so I just felt that it was best for our party and our country for us to rally around her as his successor. And I made it known to all of those friends of mine, as well as people who may not have been friends. Because I talked to some folks I had breakfast with this morning who did not agree with me. But that didn't stop me from supporting her, nor did it stop me from going sharing breakfast with those friends this morning.
Are those friends still not supporting you, or are they all in?
They're all in. They're all in now. I guess that's one reason they invited me to the breakfast this morning, because they're all in and they're excited. When I talk to them, they have seen the light, as they would say in the church I grew up in.
Well, you know, Congressman, as you were giving your response, it was like, how did he get inside my head? Because I have long said to people, they need to watch Vice President Harris's speech in Nashville, the surprise trip she took, because that is by far the best speech she has ever given as vice president, and that she has ever given. It is masterful speech, no teleprompter, no notes, from the heart. Congressman, last night, former First Lady Michelle Obama addressed the convention and made this powerful endorsement of Vice President Harris. Let's listen.
Kamala has shown her allegiance to this nation, not by spewing anger and bitterness, but by living a life of service and always pushing the doors of opportunity open to others. She understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth.
Anyone who saw me on PBS last night knows that it was that passage that I found most moving in her powerful speech. Your thoughts about the First Lady's speech?
I agree with you. Look, I was watching that speech. I left the floor and went to the privacy of my motel room because I wanted to take that speech and both those speeches from the Obamas. I wanted to see. When I saw that speech, I said, my good friend Barack Obama is in real trouble. He's going to have to follow this speech. And let me tell you something. He said so before he started speaking. And I could feel him trying to rise to the occasion. He did well, but he finished in second place last night. That was a great speech. It may be one of the best I have ever heard in that kind of a situation. I've seen a lot of them. Bill Clinton was masterful. I've seen great speeches from Jimmy Carter. I've seen Barack Obama, even his convention speech 20 years ago may have been one of the best. But what she did last night, I believe, is laid out the roadmap for all of us who are going to be surrogates in this campaign. We just need to take her speech and run with it, and we will be successful in November, in my opinion.
Congressman, you got to let me know if you get a phone call, text, tweet, smoke signal from former President Obama, given your assessment about last night. Let's talk about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is the Democratic vice presidential nominee. He speaks tonight here. He accepts the nomination tonight here in Chicago. What do you want to hear from him in his address?
Well, no, I know Tim very well. When Tim first ran for Congress from Minnesota, for some reason I ended up at his invitation out in Minnesota, spending 2 days with him. He was running in a congressional district that I think it had only 2 Democrats in 100 years. No one expected him to win in that district. I went out. I went to the little town that he grew up in, the high school that he coached football in. Hung out with him and his wife, who was an English teacher there, and both of us started our professional careers as social studies teachers. And then I went. We talked about that, and we campaigned about that similarity. Then I went and spent a morning with him at the Mayo Clinic there in Minnesota for a sort of a town hall meeting on Affordable Care Act that we were hoping to what became the Affordable Care Act. Well, I knew when I came away, I said to folks back in Washington, I think we're going to win that district. He has a folksy way about himself. He knows how to just be himself. He doesn't try to be anything else or anybody else. He just does it. That's why he won that seat and then became the governor of his state. And that is why he's on this ticket. I think that Kamala Harris saw in him what a real partner she would have with him. So I expect that the American people will identify significantly with him tonight, especially those living in non-urban areas. And when I say non-urban areas, that is not to just be rural, but to be suburban as well. That's the kind of style he has.
So, Congressman, what do you want to hear from Vice President Harris when she accepts the Democratic presidential nomination tomorrow night, Thursday night here in Chicago? Is that speech where she must begin to fill in some of the blank spots in her policy agenda for a Harris administration?
Absolutely, and I think she will. She has the capacity to turn into words and phrases that which I know to be in her heart and her head. When you are in this business, you let your head view the problem, then you apply your heart to the situation as well. I've spent enough time with her to know that not only is she a brilliant woman, but she is a compassionate woman. And between her brilliance and her compassion, I think she will connect with the American people on tomorrow night in such a way that there will be a launching pad that will put us in a good place to come out of Labor Day with a campaign that will be successful on November 5th. Now, when I talk about that, I'm talking about the foundation that she helped to lay. I worked with her on legislation. When we were doing the so-called bipartisan infrastructure bill, I was advocating for broadband or the internet that we used to call the information highway to be treated the same way that we treated the interstate highway in that bill. And Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota called me and asked, would I be insulted if she were to take up my legislation and run with it in the Senate? I said, no, I would not be insulted. I would feel complimented. And she did. And we worked with the vice president. And guess what? $65 billion for broadband internet in that bill. We are billing out in South Carolina by the end of next year, 100% of the homes, 100% of the businesses are all going to be connected to the internet. And we are doing that all over the country. That's the kind of person she is. So in talking to her, I didn't talk to her about what broadband will do for this person or that person. We talk about how to get communities connected to telemedicine, how to get children connected to educational opportunities, how to get energy sources connected in such a way that energy will be cheaper, education would be better. And that is what this is all about.
We got about 5 minutes left, and I got to squeeze in two questions. Let's talk about the House of Representatives. Polls show that Democrats have a chance to reclaim the majority. Will those polls turn out to be reality? And if so, Congressman, by how many seats?
Well, I won't get with how many seats, but I do think we're going to win the House back. I feel good about these House seats. I think we may win some seats that people did not expect us to win, simply because the calculation on my part was there before Kamala Harris became our nominee. There is an effect that I'm calling the Harris impact or the Kamala effect. That is a very positive one. And so I think that we're going to win some House seats that people are not expecting us to win. Now, the number, we are not going to get back to the 30 or 40 votes victories that we had when I first came to Congress, but I think we'll be a comfortable margin that will allow us to run the House, get bills passed that ought to be passed, and survive some close votes.
Congressman, can we talk a little bit about the Kamala effect? Because I have been struck by how, if you looked at the state of the Democratic Party on July 20th and look at it by July 22nd in the morning, it was as if a light switch had flipped within the party. Have you, and I've talked to other members of Congress asking them, have they seen anything like this? The turnaround has been so quick from potential devastation to outright euphoria within the party.
I never seen that before, but I felt it would happen. I had no idea it would be to the extent that it happened, but I thought it would have a positive impact because those pent-up emotions were there. I've been talking to enough people. I mean, people said, well, the young people are not turned on to this campaign. Now, these were young people who were not against Joe Biden. They just had not become excited. The energy that you need to have in these campaigns in order to have big victories. I'm telling people, this is going to be a close election, but the result may not be as close as people think. We do this electoral college business, and that's why it's always close, because you're going to be able to carry this state by a little bit of votes, and the other state by a little bit of votes. You do that with enough states, and you get a landslide in the electoral college. So I think it's going to be close. And what makes it close is winning these states. But I think the result of the electoral college may be shocking to a lot of people, but it'll still be a close election.
And do you think that the Kamala effect of 2024 matches or surpasses the hope enthusiasm of 2008?
It surpasses it, no question about it. I was involved in that. I know it very well. I felt it very well. Remember, South Carolina was the first in the South primary. This year we were first in the nation, and so I saw what was happening in 2008 at my fish fry when Obama took the stage to that fish fry. I knew that there was magic in the air, and I'm gonna tell you, as good as he was, as effective as he was, when it comes to the emotions and the energy, he finished second to Kamala, just like he finished second to Michelle last night. Don't tell him I said that.
Ooh, you gonna get in trouble. Congressman James Clyburn of the great state of South Carolina, as always, thank you very much for coming back to Washington Post Live.
Well, thank you very much for having me. But he understands what it is to be married to a strong woman.
All right, Congressman. Oh, by the way, I want you to come on my show this weekend. We can talk about it later. Thanks again,
Okay,
Congressman.
very good. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. For more of these important conversations, sign up for a Washington Post subscription. Get a free trial by visiting, where is it? There it is, WashingtonPost.com/live. Again, that's WashingtonPost.com/live. Once again, I'm Jonathan Capehart, Associate Editor at the Washington Post. Thank you for watching Washington Post Live.